Welcome back to A Bit of Curiosity. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy Howlett. Today I'm joined by Nick Greer. Nick and his wife, Deborah, have 7 amazing children and 2 adorable grandchildren. And I'm excited to talk about those 2 a little bit too. The Greers love to spend time together on their adventure in life. Each one of the family brings a unique personality and lots of energy to everything they do. Together, Nick and Deborah create experiences for their family and others that connect people and inspire them to do good. One experience that they've been able to create is with their nonprofit organization, the 512 Foundation, which we'll get into that as well. I'm excited to talk more about that. Another way that the Greers are changing the world is through Nick's latest adventures with their businesses Built and Spilt. And they're all in and will always be looking for experiences to create change, to inspire people to do good, and having a blast doing it. So, Nick, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. This is a great opportunity. Thanks, Jeremy.
Absolutely. So my first question, so when we first met, it was at a nice little lunch and we sat next to each other and I I'd never met you. I didn't know who you were. We didn't talk business at all. I didn't even find out that you were with Built and whatever until the very end of the lunch, and it wasn't our conversation. What we talked about was your grandchildren mostly. So my first question is, did you take the trip to Disney yet?
No. So, yeah, no, it will happen when the time is right, but we didn't do it. But I was a little jealous when they were able to do it, before without me. But,
Well,
we'll make sure the
tell
experience is great.
tell us the story with your granddaughter around Disneyland.
Well, she called me up and FaceTimed me. And then she said, G Pops. They call me G Pops. That's my grandpa name is G Pops. I've got it on my license plate. In
Love it.
fact, I just love it so much. But she said, G Pops, you're my favorite. And she's like, you go Disneyland? And I go, no. She goes, yeah, we go Disneyland. And she's like, basically saying, we're going to Disneyland, just me and you. And I go, what about your mom? She goes, no, no, mommy, just me and G Pops. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you. I go, what about me, ma, which is my wife? She goes, okay, and Mima too. I mean, she's totally working me. Had to stroke me a little bit by saying I'm her favorite, and then, hey, are you going to Disneyland? And it was fun. I think that happened right before I saw you that day.
Yeah.
If that's
Yeah, no, I
correct,
I love that story. I'm not quite to the grandchildren phase yet, but we're inching closer. And so
that's
like
good.
hearing these stories is a lot of fun. So now you got to go take her on that Disneyland trip.
I know, but not when
Without
she's
her
manipulating me.
without
Yeah,
if she gets good, she'll manipulate you the whole rest of your life.
yeah,
And she'll have
she's
fun
got me
doing it.
figured out. She's only 3. You kidding me? She's got me
Yeah.
worked.
No, that's great. So so you've got 7 children. And so what's more difficult? Running a startup or running a family with 7 children?
Yes. I mean, it's a whole different beast. It's like what tastes better, that steak or that delicious orange? It's like, well, yeah, they both taste great, but uh it's a
I'll
totally
take
different ball
I'll take the
game.
steak over the orange any day, buddy.
Yeah, okay, okay. Man, I love a good orange. I love a good orange. Growing up in Arizona, you know it's trees to pick from, but it's a good question, Jeremy. It's like it's a whole different ball game running a business, especially a startup and there's so many unknowns, and just like being a father for the first time, there's so many unknowns, and then okay, the second child gets a little bit easier, but it's still hard. And then, you get the third and you're like, well, there's only 2 parents, but there's 3 kids and there's only like 2 of my arms. And how are we going to do this? And you just figure it out. And I think that's how it is with a startup. It's just like you just figure it out. And you were making it up just like you are as being a new dad or new mom. And you make it up as you go and you're figuring it out. And you find some great people to surround yourself with. And you get some really good insights and input and feedback and advice. And you take the best of the best and the worst of the worst. And then you try to sift it all out, and hopefully you come out on top and you end up being a great dad or a great mom, a great parent, and hopefully you do okay as far as, and secondarily, as a great entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people though that the third was the easiest one. Um,
Really, that was our
yeah.
hardest. Yeah.
And for us, it was the easiest. My oldest so we had a daughter first, and she was 4.5 when our third was born. and she just kind of played quasi mom. And so it was like you always heard like because we always heard like three is the hardest because now you're outnumbered, right? Like, for us, it was the easiest. To today, she's still the easiest. She's the most organized. She's the cleanest.
Wow.
Like she's the
Wow.
most
Wow.
determined. Like
Yeah, we had the son first, and then we had a boy third, and so he all he did was just tease his little brother the whole time. So he knew how to work it, but
yeah,
it was fun. It was fun.
yeah. That's probably a little bit different, right? Like I was lucky to have a girl first,
Yeah,
and then I've only got one son. So and then
yeah,
three daughters.
I love it.
So awesome. So when you're so how like raising a family, running multiple startups, because this is like we'll get into built and spilt and whatever a little bit, right? But this is not your first go around. You've done this a few times. How do you manage life work alignment in raising a family, being there, and then also running startups?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. I get that question asked a lot, and especially with the younger generation students, those who are just starting their business or just starting their careers. And I always tell them, I'm like, my work-life balance today is so different than what my work-life balance was 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, and it's different, definitely different than it was 25 years ago, starting, our first business. But you adapt, you change based upon your circumstances. You're always evolving, you're always improving. I would tell you, like, the shoe shouldn't fit and doesn't fit with others and with everyone, because what you do is going to be completely different than what maybe I need to do. But I do know, I mean, there are some sound principles as far as getting my life in order every single day. Spiritually, I've got to make sure I'm totally aligned. I've got to make sure I have that absolute sure foundation every morning, making sure it's the first thing I do and making sure that I'm spiritually sound. And that's super important for me. And I'm very much about putting God first in all things. And I'm always going to do that and make sure I always do that. So, how do I show Him very first of the day that I'm going to do that right off the bat? And, it's amazing how much that helps create order, of creating that balance. Because I think balance, really what it comes down to is like the order of all things, of how things fall in order, and you're putting what matters most first, and maybe what matters not so much last, and finding out that mix for you of like what really matters to me today or this week or this year or for the next 5 years. And I've got to focus on that. Well, what matters for me first and foremost is putting God first. And so that creates order, and that eliminates a lot of the chaos. And when you're building a business, that's all it is chaos. And what you're trying to do is create order within the chaos. And so, well, what a better partner than him to be able to include on all the chaos to create more order. And so that's really, I would tell you, my 2 cents of the day would be just do that, and then start listening to see how you actually place everything else as far as the order is concerned.
No, I love it. It's Covey's big rocks, right? Like put the big rocks in the jar first, then the medium rocks, and then the sand can just kind of fill in the gaps, right? But if you put the sand in first, there's no way you're fitting in all the big rocks.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
Yep.
happen. And so,
Absolutely.
and I intentionally stray away from the word work-life balance because I believe it's a myth. I don't believe that's like you're like because there's balance is complete stillness, right? Like it's like okay,
Yeah.
it is level,
Right.
but
Right.
it's alignment. It's about okay, how do I align my life in a way where the priority comes first, right? And then everything else kind of falls into order. And I like the word order that you use there several times, right? Like making sure that we're in an established order with our lives. And that helps line things up so that yeah, we can achieve what we need to achieve.
You got it.
So, what's something that a mentor or somebody early in your career, what's a piece of advice that they gave you that's kind of stuck with you?
Years ago, from a pretty well-known entrepreneur that I think most people would have heard of. He told me, money should never lead; it should only follow. And I've said that for many years hereafter. And I think too often when you're building a career, you're building, a business, you're building an enterprise, you're building people, whatever it may be. Sometimes we chase the mighty dollar, and sometimes it's the dollar that actually is leading. the cause and leading what we're fighting for. And I would tell you, I love that advice because when it does lead, I think so many of the unnecessary things follow. So many of the things of the what I told you, the chaos earlier, is created because you're chasing that dollar at that point. So I would say, money should never lead, it should follow. And when it does, money always follows. And it's incredible how that works.
So how do we shift our mindset to like, because we live in a world that requires money, right? Like we to live, to eat, to put clothes on our back, right? Like we have to have money. So at some point, like, right, like there has to be a paycheck. So how do we stay focused on letting the money follow and not leading with the money, even though so much of our livelihood relies upon a steady income of cash flow?
Yeah, I mean, let me back up a little bit and maybe explain it this way. And it's a great question. But again, in that case, it's like, well, I need the money. So of course I got to let it lead. And I need to feed my kids. I need to feed my family. I need to pay the mortgage. I need to pay the bills. I need food on the table. I know. I need. Or I want. And at the end of the day, you have to think, well, what is it you're fighting for? Well, I'm fighting for the money. Is it? Well, no, I'm fighting to make a difference in the world. Well, is it? When I started realizing I wanted to actually be a builder of people, I wanted to be a builder of teams. I wanted to maximize their talents, their strengths, their abilities, their capacities. When I started focusing, like, how do I maximize who they are? And especially in what I'm doing right now, I feel like in the past, maybe let money lead, but now presently, I don't believe it leads at all. What leads is I'm going into work to go build people. I'm going into work to actually build who they're going to become. I'm going into work. This isn't work. This is like absolute pure enjoyment to see them actually hit levels they never thought they could actually hit, and they exceed them beyond anything they ever could have imagined. What am I fighting for is that. What am I fighting for are my kids to feel that exact same way, my family, my wife, all my loved ones. And so when you're actually fighting for that, it's like, oh, by the way, as they're being builders of an enterprise or builders for good, and they're building other people and it's reciprocated across the board, you start creating a culture of builders of people. You start building a culture of something other than just chasing the mighty dollar. And it's not about their revenue goal. It's about how do we maximize people's talents and their abilities and their strengths. And oh, by the way, holy cow, look at what we just accomplished. Now you still set those goals as far as revenue is concerned. You're still setting those goals. It doesn't mean that you don't have those goals, but it's not the driver. And so for me, I want to give people autonomy. I want to give them that like ability to actually do something without even having me around to make those choices for them. And then realizing they can actually make bigger choices, bigger decisions, and be much more strategic than they ever could imagine. And then, oh, by the way, the money's going to follow. And that's just how it works. And so I don't know if that helps as far as breaking it out that way, but that's just my mindset of how I like to look at things.
No, I love it. Now everybody listening wants to go work for Nick Greer, so there you're gonna get
No,
all the
yeah, that's dangerous. That's scary. That's scary.
No, that's powerful, sound leadership principles, though, right? Like, is giving autonomy, building people, letting them go win, right? Giving them ownership. And those are powerful principles. Too many times I've worked for individuals where those are not the case. And it's not a fun work environment. And it's not a growing work environment for anybody because, and those were all driven by money, right? Like, it was all about, like, we're chasing quarterly revenues, we're chasing annual numbers, right? Like, and yeah, so I think that's a powerful like thing to differentiate between, really, right? And understanding, okay, what am I really driving towards? And so now in your career, right, like being able to do that is, yeah, it's powerful.
That's a
Where do you
great question.
feel where do you feel like you got to that point in your career? Was it watching other leaders? Was it kind of trial and error? Is it just inherently ingrained in you? Like, where does that come from?
I think anything good in life comes through practice. You look at principles that are for your good or for the benefit of others, and they're sound principles. You practice upon those principles, then yeah, practice does eventually make semi or almost perfect. And for me, it's just a matter of understanding through your gut of what feels right, what is right, and then what do you do? you go build off of those principles and practice the living dickens out of them. And that's how I look at it.
So let's talk a little internally for a second. You decided to build another bar company, go compete with the likes of Cliff Bar and all of those players, right? Why?
Yeah, I know. My wife asked the same question. My CFO did. They both said, "Don't do it." I don't know. You know what? You just sometimes those callings in life come, and you see something that has great potential, has legs, is exciting. When you taste a product and you see the potential of what you can do with it, then it's like, let's go after it. You've got to be kind of insane. You got to be a little stupid, and you got to be a bit vulnerable and naive at the same time. And then you got to have a little bit of luck, and then just roll the dice and go have some fun with it. And that's what we've done. And I got to tell you, we're having so much fun with it right now. It is so much fun, and it's such a blessing to be part of.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've got a friend, Richie Norton. He's been on this podcast and he does some coaching with me and stuff. And he wrote a book, The Power of Starting Something Stupid, right? Like it's right there in the name. I've been there, starting a footwear company, a running shoe company, right? Saying, okay, we're gonna go compete with the likes of Nike, Asics, Brooks, Saucony, right? Like it was a stupid
Why?
idea.
Yeah,
Why,
why?
right?
Right?
Like it's
Yeah, you were
but
in the same exact boat. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, well, there's just thousands of shoes out there. There's thousands of bars. Like, we don't
yep.
need another one. You're like, yeah, but I can make a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I want that experience to be pretty sweet, for every
And
end user.
yeah, and I think that's the power of like a dumb idea, right? Is like, okay, it might seem dumb and it might, right? Like it comes off stupid because it's kind of insane, right? Like you've got a solid gig with what you're doing with building Scipio, doing all of these other things, right? Like, and then it's like, well, I want to go get into the CPG food and beverage space, right?
Yeah, and I
Like,
want to do the manufacturing and all of it. I'm like, it's just pure insanity.
and
Pure
then you go from a
insanity. But
bar to then the beverage space, which is like a ready to drink beverage is a whole nother game too.
oh, I know. Call me crazy.
But that's right, like that's where innovation comes from. It comes from stupid ideas, right? And not sitting on our
Yeah,
just not sitting there and being complacent. And so
yeah,
yeah, keep running with those
yeah,
stupid ideas.
yeah.
So
Let's go.
yeah, so that's internal. And then kind of external, there's a couple of things that you've done that are really cool. Tell us about, well, one's external but has become very internal, right? Tell us about 512.
Yeah, about 16 years ago, we had a neighbor who was diagnosed with leukemia, and I've talked about this story several times. But he didn't have insurance, was an entrepreneur, two little boys, cutest little boys ever, and cutest little family, 26-year-old man. And there was an overwhelming spirit, a feeling that I had one day that came to me as I was driving, and that I needed to help him. And three different times felt this feeling, and you can't deny that when it comes to you. And so sent out some emails, made some phone calls, and in 2 days, we raised $64,000 for this man. And at that time was a significant amount of money. It still is. And I was overwhelmed by just the outpouring of love. I guess it's been 17 years now, but of love, of support, of these complete strangers to this man who were willing just to give so much. But it was our daughter on the second day that came to me, and she's 6 years old, and she's the one with the two little kids now. And she comes to me, she's 6 years old, and she hands me something, and I put out my hand. She goes, "Dad, will this be enough to save Eric's life?" And it's a crumbled up $5 bill and 12 cents. And she said, "It's everything I have. Do you think he'll live?" And of course, what do you tell your daughter at the time? Absolutely, you better believe it. Bet your bottom dollar he's gonna live. And you just get emotional thinking that these kids actually do pay attention to what you're teaching them, even at a young, tender age. But it was everything she had. It was truly that widow's mite at that time. And that's why we created the 512 Foundation, basically, of giving of what you have. And even if it's only $5.12, as we start giving ourselves and we start giving of our time and of our talents, and how blessed we can be, but how blessed we are. And so from that, we started helping, doing different things for the foundation. But it was about, call it 14, 15 years ago, we realized so many kids were going hungry on the weekend, and they weren't getting food for the weekend. They get food during the week, Monday through Friday, but from the school system. But Friday afternoon on, and through Monday morning, nothing. And I'm like, not in our own backyard, not here in Utah. Sure enough, I couldn't believe the absolute dire need. So we started packing bags of food for them on the weekend and started dropping them off to schools. And next thing you know, I mean, I think we delivered to nearly 70 different schools along the Wasatch Front. It's about, 30, what is it, 3,500 kids every weekend that we feed and for the weekend. And every Wednesday night, we pack these bags of food and feed these kids. And we have a system where volunteers come by on Thursday and they pick them up and they drop them off in the school. So by Friday afternoon, those teachers and the principal can just slip it in the backpack without other kids knowing, and they've got food for the weekend that they can eat, that they can prepare themselves, and it's just a sweet blessing. As a young kid, we lost everything, and I remember having very little food at times. And there was a time where a family dropped off two 50-pound bags of potatoes to our front doorstep and rang the doorbell and took off. And my mom exclaimed, "It's manna from heaven! It's manna from heaven!" And I thought, manna from heaven, potatoes, like ew. And that's why I hate baked potatoes to this day. I'm like, I just hate, even if I have tons of sour cream and bacon and cheese on, I'm like, maybe I can eat some, but man, we had potatoes coming out of our ears, and I'm like, I hated potatoes, but it was such a blessing too. And not having food is real. And how
Yeah.
ironic is it today, which I don't think it's ironic, but that we have a food company that we nourish people, across Canada and the entire United States and in other parts of the world. And it's pretty awesome. It's such a blessing. So that's what five.
No, I love it, and I love the origin of it as far as like your daughter, right? Like her willingness to give, right? Like, and just that pure innocence of like, hey, this is all I got, but is this enough, right? Like
Yeah.
Stephen E. Robinson told the story years ago, the bicycle story, right?
Bicycle story. Yeah.
Yeah, tells
Saving
his
up for
daughter,
it. Yeah.
yeah, tells his daughter, I'll buy you a bike if you can save up for it, and she comes with whatever 98 cents or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, Dad, is this enough? And they go look, and $100 or whatever, right? But he
Yeah.
makes up all the
Yeah.
difference, right? And it is like, I think sometimes we feel like things are too big for us to tackle, right? Like you share a story of 2 bags of potatoes, right? Like back then, even today, right? Like you go buy two 50-pound bags of potatoes or whatever, right? Like that's gonna cost you $20 maybe, right? Like potatoes are cheap, but
Hmm.
how much impact that has, like you're telling this story now 45 years later, whatever, right? Like, and just the impact that that had on your family, right? Even though you never want to eat a baked potato again, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's, I think sometimes we look at the problems in the world, right? And we think, okay, they're like, what I do is a drop in the bucket, right? Like what's it going to
Yeah.
do? How's it going to help? But that $5.12 has now evolved into 3,000 meals a week, right? Like
Hmm.
for like I went on your website the other day and I watched the video and I cried because like you watch
Because it
this
was such
girl,
good acting on my part. Like, or is that why you cried?
not you weren't, I don't think you weren't in the video. I don't, were you in the video? I didn't
You're
recognize
talking
you in
about
the
that
video.
other video. I'm
The
kidding. Yeah. Yeah.
512 video with the
Yeah.
girl,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like comes home, parent is
No food.
out late, right? There's no food, there's soda in the fridge, right? Like,
Yeah.
and she just has nothing.
Yeah.
And then to what, like, and then as you conclude, right, she's walking eating a bag of chips and she's happier, right? And to think about like just the mental fatigue, the inability to learn, all of these things that children struggle with when they aren't fully nourished, right? Like,
Yeah.
and those are things that put them behind the rest of their peers. And so by being fed, being nourished, now they can be more cognitive, they can think better, they can study better, they can do their homework better, and they can keep up with their peers a little bit easier. And it all starts with a crumpled up $5 bill and 12
Yeah.
cents.
Yeah.
And I think, and so for all of us, right? Like we might be thinking, oh, I don't have enough money, right? Or if I had more, then I would give. Or, and no, like you can give time, right? Like you guys, the machines aren't filling those bags, right? Like
Yeah.
there's lots of like there's an app called Just Serve that anybody can go download and find service opportunities within their community, right? So you can give of time, you can give of $5 to a charity, right? And that can go a long ways. And it looks like on your website you have private donors that'll match any donations as well to the 512 Foundation. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, a donor.
A donor.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and so that $5 then becomes 10, right? So,
yeah,
and so there's ways to get involved, and there's a lot of organizations like that, yours being one of them, right? And so
yes.
looking for those opportunities. So people can go to the website if they want to get involved in donation. Are there other ways that people can get involved with the 512 Foundation?
If they're here locally, I mean, we're booked out at about a year in advance, but we have youth
Okay.
groups and others that come on Wednesday nights. We have families that are pretty consistent. It's about 150 plus people or so. It seems like they come every week. And it's an incredible event and time every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. But if anyone is here in locally in Utah, Rhonda at 512.org. That's FIVE, the number 12.org. And that's Rhonda without an H, RO. Actually, it may be with an H. Try them both, RH and RO, but at 512, FIVE, the number 12.org. She coordinates all that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes as well. So,
Thank you.
um, yeah, I think it's such a powerful story. Like you don't have it listed anywhere on your LinkedIn that I could find. I actually came across it because a friend of mine, I was out to lunch and we got talking about you, and he's like, "Oh, have you heard about the foundation built after kind of his daughter?" And I was like,
Mm,
"No." And so he told me about it, and so I did some digging, and
well, that's nice of him.
so and it like yeah, such a powerful thing, right? To start with something so small, and it's something that any of us could really start in any of our communities. Here in Utah, you guys are doing it right, but it's you guys that have not permeated the market, I'm sure. Like there is still a mass demand for food, right? And the food drives do what
Right.
they can, right? But there's still there's more that can be done and throughout the country, wherever, right? And it is unfortunate, right? Like we are one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and yet we still have children that are going hungry. Just and then they could veritably be across the street from us, and we would not even know.
Yeah, my wife even just told me a stat this morning that she heard that there's more homeless in the United States than at any other time. I don't know if that's where that stat and where it's validated, but that was a stat that she had at least read this morning. Again, not validated, but at least was told to me this morning.
Yeah, interesting. That's unfortunate, right? Like, yeah, it's it is a hard thing to deal with. So, um, so with so other external things that you've done that I think have been really cool, watching what Built has done specifically is spot like you guys were kind of on the forefront of NIL deals.
Mm,
And I think NIL kind of has a bad rep with some people. It's like, oh well, we're turning college sports into just professional sports now. But you guys did something very different, which I thought was really cool, is you gave scholarships to all of the walk-on players. And so you guys funded their full year of tuition. Traditionally, right? Like a school only gets so many scholarships that they can give to players. I think it's like 88 or 89 or something like that, right? And there's 123 players on a football team. And so you've got nearly 40 players that are not scholarshiped, right? So you guys went in and not only contributed to other athletes and so forth, but you provided walk-ons the ability to have all of their college schooling covered. And I think that's awesome. So
yeah, thank
where
you.
where did the idea for that come about? Like what inspired that? And yeah, why go outside of just, well, we just want our name associated with Brigham Young University. We want to do something different.
Yeah, well, listen, we knew NIL was coming down the pipeline, and it was obvious. We knew that there was going to be a ruling in that very summer, and we were talking about even Trevor Lawrence. Hey, let's go do a deal with him while he was, I think it was at Clemson, if I'm not mistaken, or I'm seeing the orange jersey right now. I can't quite recall, but And we talked about other players, and I'm like, I just got bothered by it. I got bothered by just sponsoring one player. I'm like, isn't this about the team? And I just didn't like it. And so met with BYU and just sitting there talking, trying to think. And, we come to find out that Coach Satake's, thing that keeps him up most at night was these walk-ons. How can I take care of these walk-ons? He loves his players,
Yeah.
loves them, and they love him like crazy. And he's such a good dude. And he's a player's coach, and they love him. And so I call him up, talk to him, and come to find out that is what his like just greatest desire is slash his greatest concern. Wasn't asking for anything, and I'm like, maybe we can help out 5 players. You know what? Let's do 5 players. And in my mind, I'm like, let's do 5. So we're kind of calculating what it would cost to do 5 players to pay for their tuition. And okay, man, if you do 5, I mean, can we do 10? Should we do 10? And the next thing I know, it's just an overwhelming feeling. Nick, you got to do all 36. You can't stop at 10. That's ridiculous. You got to do all 30. And so I'm like, all right. I call up Coach Kalani. I want to do all 36. I want to sponsor all 36. I want to employ them. Uh, he starts crying, got emotional over the phone, and it was legit. It was real.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
it
Kalani.
wasn't like this. It was just like, are you serious, Nick? Don't be lying to me. No, don't be lying. I'm like, yeah. He goes, okay. Okay. And so we sat down. I'm like, how are we going to do this? Because it was so new. It was just barely legalized, essentially. And schools had to be very careful at the time, and businesses and players. And how do we go about this? And we knew exactly how to do it. So that's why when we did the announcement, it was a little Oprah Winfrey-esque. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. And, we're like, we just had a little fun with it. But I knew quite a few of those players, and I love them. And Talmadge Gunther, one of my favorite human beings on the planet. His dad is so incredible. His dad and his grandpa and his uncle are actually the ones that give me my very first loan from a bank on my very first business. And I'm like, dude, how awesome is this that, what goes around comes around,
Yeah.
and there's good karma. And I'm like, yeah, that $100,000 loan and that line of credit and what they did and how they did it and why they did it. They shouldn't have done it when they did it, when I was so fresh and starting scrappy. And it was my first bank. And I was just like, it was through the bank. And I'm like, how awesome. All right, I'm start with Talmadge. And that's how we did it. And then it was like Nick Billups. I'm like, I love this kid's story. He's not even supposed to be here. He had a full ride scholarship at the U, but he felt something special here. He's not a member of our faith, but yet he felt something unique and special. I'm like, I love this kid. And when I met him, I'm like, this is one of my favorite dudes on the planet. And he's so genuine. He's so grateful. He's so gracious in all things. I'm like, how can you not love this guy and want to support him? And then all of a sudden, when you see all the other walk-ons, and that's how we made the announcement. We didn't expect this, 125 million views over an 8-day period to happen. It was just wild. It was
Yeah.
going across the sea and on BBC and other things. And you're thinking, how rad is this? And it's because we're just trying to do good. We weren't trying to get notoriety. I knew we'd get a little bit of buzz around here, maybe on the Des News, but we didn't expect that. And it was just fun, super different than what everyone else is doing.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, right? Like lead with the purpose and the money will follow, right? Like you guys didn't go lead like you didn't go lean into it as like you
How do
specifically
we get
strayed away
payback?
from the
Yeah,
marketing aspect of it, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
and I've like having
I would have had a
sponsored
video
athletes
crew.
before, right?
I
Like
would have had our own video crew down there, like videoing this and like, all right, hey, behind the scenes, this is what's going on. Let's create the
yeah.
content. I didn't have any of that. In fact, I was supposed to go on a golfing fishing trip, and I postponed it a couple hours just so I can hurry and make the announcement so I can hurry and fly out. And I'm like, I didn't expect it. And when I landed, the calls I got from different ADs and the questions and all anyhow, I wasn't expecting that. I just wanted to go fishing and play golf that day. And Kalani said, can you just at least come to our team meeting and announce it? Sure. Anyhow, it was fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I read on KS, I think it was on KSL Sports, just Kalani's quote, right? Like, and actually, I know it was BYU's press release on the website, and just to see like how much that meant to Kalani, right? Like, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I like knowing him as a coach, right? Like, and I don't know him personally, right? Like I've never had a conversation with Kalani, but like I see him and I've heard him speak several times, right? Like he loves, yeah, he loves those athletes, right? And so
Yeah.
just understanding, yeah, he will wants them to be taken care of, right? Like because you think about as a walk-on athlete, right? Like it's one thing to go be a scholarship athlete and just go show up and you've got your room, your food, right? Like you don't have to worry about anything, right? But to put in like the time to be an athlete, and then you've also got to figure out, okay, how do I make ends meet? What job can I get during the season, right? Like when I'm at practice and I've got classes and I've got like, how can I pay for tuition? How can I pay for room, right? Like, and so yeah, those, yeah, having a being a walk on and still getting some of that covered as a powerful thing.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, awesome, Nick. I think we can continue to dive down so many different rabbit holes with your experience and what you've done and what you do in leadership and for the community, etc. But for sake of time, let's wrap with a few rapid fire questions here.
You got it.
So, how does your personal vision propel you?
Find that more. I want you to go deeper on what you're
Yeah.
trying to get from that
So,
question.
like, yeah. So, what keeps you? Yeah. What's your vision and how does it keep you going with everything that you've got going on?
Oh my gosh. I think the
And
vision
that might be
is
less of
never
a
ending.
rapid fire question. That
Yeah,
might
that's
be a
like
little deep.
it's like let's pontificate on this one. I mean, like how do you just like rapid fire and rapid answer? There's not a really a rapid answer, but to be quick, I mean, I'm a futuristic thinker, and I like to think big picture. Therefore, very much a visionary. But a vision to me, it's like something that evolves, and what you think your vision is today becomes something completely different tomorrow. But when you surround yourself, not to sound too cliche, but truly when you surround yourself with the very best but yet share that vision with them. They're the contributors to make that vision become a reality, yes, but to become even much larger and to exponentially be so much better and bigger and badder than it ever could have been, by just doing the vision on your own. And that's what I love about a vision is allowing people to see and to actually take a piece of that vision and to participate in it and then go, all right, coach, I know what we got to do. This is how we're going to grow it or this is how we're going to execute against it. And then it grows and grows and grows. And that's what I love about a vision. It will never, it will never stop growing when you do it right.
Love it. How do you respond to failure?
You know what? Harley Davidson had a quote years ago. It says, failure, sucks. So screw it. Let's ride. And I think it's failure to me is like, I don't know, is it really failure? Who's defining the failure? I think the only one that defines the failure is yourself. And I think in reality, you've got to redefine what failure is because I think it's, yeah, you're maybe making mistakes. You're just not exactly doing what you should be doing. But in reality, you are doing what you should be doing because you're learning from it. So therefore, you're going to improve upon it. So get your butt up and ready and off the ground and keep running like crazy because what you just failed on in your mind was actually a success. And that little success is going to breed even more success. And so it's shifting that paradigm of that's not a failure, that was just maybe a small inkling of a success that's going to help breed the next level of success in a much larger way. And so, I mean, I look at how many businesses I failed at, but did I real fail at them? Well, no, because it took me to that next step of where I needed to be exactly in the business that I was supposed to be in. But I couldn't have been in that business at that time because I had to learn what I needed to learn beforehand. So it wasn't a failure. It was an absolute success. It just led me to the ultimate success.
Yeah. And I wouldn't consider your bars a failure by any means, right? But one of the things I remember you saying is that the bars, there's a lot of critics out there towards the bars, but the puffs are like 80+% of your sales. And the puffs don't come about without the bars initially, right? Like, and so I think that's an illustration of that point, right? Like, is like, okay, yeah, we developed this bar and it may not be the greatest thing out there, but it cut our way for the puffs, which have completely like taken over the market and done some really cool things. And so,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
awesome. What inspires you?
What inspires me?
Yeah,
I think I alluded to it earlier, building people, making believers out of non-believers, learning, but helping other people learn. What inspires me is becoming better today than I was yesterday. What inspires me is making you a better person today. Just to like see you smile and have this conversation, like is going to brighten my day. I'm like, I hope Jeremy feels better after this conversation. I hope he learns just something small, and we both learn something of, of what we can do a little bit better. And so when we get back home or when we see our kids, we're that much better of a father, that much better of a husband. I love that kind of stuff. I love making unhappy people happy. That inspires me. It motivates me. It drives me bonkers when I can't. When they're just too grouchy and they're going to stay grouchy, I'm like, well, you got your agency, so I can't control that. But I mean, those are the things that drive me, that motivate me, that pump me up.
I love it. I love that attitude too. I love just kind of going in with, okay, I can control what I can control, and that's how I show up, right? That's how I show up for a conversation. That's how I show up among people, right? And we always have control over how we show up.
Exactly.
We don't have control over how people are going to respond to how we show up,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we always have control of how we show up. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
What book are you reading right now?
Man, Solve for Happy. It's my second time I've read it. In it right now, I'm actually reading two different books. But as I bounce back and forth, Solve for Happy. And then I just started a book in between this book as I'm reading Solve for Happy, but Molecule of More. And so trying to understand that a little bit better. But the Molecule of More. But if you've ever read Solve for Happy, I think it's a must read for everyone.
I haven't heard of either one of those books, so I'll
Okay.
definitely have to add those to the list.
I don't know about the Molecule of More. That's like the verdict's still out. So don't trust me on that one. I'm still
That's
just
fair.
I just barely started that yesterday. But Solve for
I
Happy,
like the title though. I like the title because I think too often we get stuck in a scarcity mindset, right? And but there is abundance and more, and there is so much for us to take advantage of or opportunity of, right?
I agree.
And yeah, if we start to live like the squirrel, right? Living in scarcity, trying to hoard our nuts, and then we confine ourselves. But when we look at abundance, right? And so I like the title at least.
Yeah,
That just that concept of like, okay, if the down to
good.
the
It sold you.
molecular if down to the molecular level, right? Like we can view that there's more for us to share, more for us to give, more for us to do, right? Then yeah. So I'm at least won over by the title. But I won't judge a book by its
Don't judge
cover.
me. Don't judge me yet.
So what about a book that you've read in the last 12 to 18 months that you'd highly recommend to others?
Shoot, man. If you haven't read the Book of Mormon, read it. You got to read it. I'm going to just preach it. And I don't care where I sit, who I stand. I mean, I've got 200 copies in my car. So if anyone needs one, I got a specially leather bound version one for you. But one book I absolutely love, and it wasn't 12 or 18 months ago, but I'll tell you, like the Go Giver. If you've ever read that book before, it's an awesome, awesome, awesome book. And I think it's a book that very short book, easy book, to read. It's just an awesome book. And then Shoe Dog, if you love Nikes, you got to read Shoe Dog. I mean, I've read it 4 times because I feel like so many things parallel with what we're doing at Built and how we're doing it. They took a lot longer, but just building a brand and everything else. And if you're building a business, how long it took Phil Knight to build that business will give you mad respect for him, for the brand, and make you realize this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It takes time.
Yeah.
Good things really do take time. So
Yeah, and
there's
then
two books for you.
there's a series of breaks in there, right? Like, and then series of challenges that he had to overcome, right? Like,
Yeah.
having been a shoe dog myself, right? Like, yeah,
You understand. How many times did you read that book?
only once. I've
Oh,
only read it
man.
once,
Did you just
but
did you just love that? You had to have loved it.
I do to an extent,
It bugged you?
a little
Something
bit.
bugs
Like
you?
I
Yeah.
have got my own biases towards Nike, right? Like,
Yeah. I wonder why. That's weird that you do.
no, I think that I don't know that Phil Knight gave Bowerman the respect that he deserved within the book,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And some of those early things that came about, like, because yeah, like he was a rep for Onasuka, right? Like schlepping shoes out of the trunk of his car, and I've known a lot of reps that schlep shoes out of their car, and not very many of them go on to build multi-billion-dollar footwear companies.
Yeah.
So no, like what Phil has done is phenomenal, right? So, but the thing that I love about his book is I love his like personal journey. He shares his
Mhm.
story of going to Asia, right? And just kind of going through this like personal spiritual journey almost, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
before
Got to
he
find
started the
himself.
company.
Yeah.
And you look at a lot of other founders and that kind of resonates, right? Steve Jobs was very similar, right? Like you've got a lot of founders in that vein, and so that's super interesting. So,
Yeah.
well, Nick, last question. Where is your favorite place to travel and why?
Shoot. The kids love going to Hawaii. We used to live there. We moved our family there. I taught school up there, and we had an incredible experience. So we go back to the house out there, and it's home. It's great. I love Idaho, Victor, Idaho. Don't tell anyone about it. I think it's the best kept secret. It's God's country. It's quiet. You go up there, and the walks that you go on with your wife is just absolutely priceless. Um, the mountain biking, the hiking, the golfing. It sounds so simple, I know, but I love Idaho and going up to Victor, and I love that trip. And my daughter-in-law, it's become her favorite trip too. So I'm convincing at least one of my kids, right now, and she's like, okay, yeah, I love this place too. And I'm like, oh, Isabel, I'm so glad you love it because I love it too.
Right. Okay. I do like certain parts of Idaho. There are some certain parts of Idaho that I
Keyword
don't like
certain.
so much.
Keyword certain, yeah. I know most people would not say Idaho is their favorite place, but I'm just gonna say it. I just love it.
Yeah, I had one of my memories from my journal pop up on my computer here just before we got together, and it was like 8 years ago today that I was backcountry skiing up in the Sawtooths, and just
Wow.
beautiful,
I love
phenomenal.
it.
So,
I love it.
I was actually wearing board shorts, and that was it with a giant cowboy hat that we found in our yurt. So, and ski boots and skis, and that was fun. So,
I want to see that picture.
yeah,
I got to
that
see
was a
that
fun
picture
day.
now.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to follow you or keep up with you, where can they do it? So we talked about 512, but where else?
I don't do any social media.
That's
Come
fair.
on LinkedIn, maybe. I don't know. I stay a little private. Stay a little
Okay.
private, but
That's
just,
okay.
you know what? All I can say, you don't need to follow me. Just follow your heart. Follow what you're seeing, feeling inside, and go fight for it and become the very best you can become. Stop following others. You become that leader that you need to become and you ought to become and what you're destined to become. That's what I would say. Go follow that.
Love it. Even better. Okay. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
brother. Okay, man.
Yep.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely.